right, I'm talking to Nick Singer. Nick, you just announced to your campaign workers here tonight that you didn't think you made it. So tell us what you think went on here in this particular campaign with against Rebecca Budd.
Well, I mean, we ran a very grassroots campaign, personally knocked over 3,000 doors. I mean, our campaign got probably close to 5,000, like on the doorsteps of 5,000 voters. That's really, I think, the only reason we stayed as close as we did in the face of $100,000 in spending on a school board race. So, I mean, a moral victory of sorts, but, still frustrating.
How much did your campaign spend on this by comparison?
Less than 10,000. So, I mean,
wow. So it's 100,000 versus 10,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did that buy more signage, more robocalls, or what for Rebecca?
Sure. I mean, when you think about it, 2,000 voters roughly showed up in the primary, and this time, I mean, we spent $4 to $5 a vote. It's enough to do, a couple pieces of mail, some signs,
right.
All the things you need to run a competitive campaign. Now multiply all that by 10. I mean, it's hard to overcome that kind of saturation.
Yeah. Well, Nick, talk a little bit about what you think is at stake in this race here. Anyway.
Well, the message I had that resonated with my supporters and the voters I was talking with was one of where we need people who are connected to the challenges of our schools. For years, decades, we've had boards that often didn't even send their own children to the schools or were well past the age of having children in the schools and made decisions that didn't work out over and over and over. And, the hope was that this time we would have a board. I mean, you saw it in the Paula Lewis race quite starkly. I mean, she has children in the schools right now. My pledge, my commitment was to send my son to our neighborhood school. Now we have someone who has none of that. So, I respect the voters' decision. I think, again, the monetary advantage was absurd and hard to overcome. But I think that kind of disconnect is bad for Oklahoma City, and I think it's been bad in the past and will probably be bad in the future. But, we still have 45,000 students we have to educate every year, and we're just going to have to keep fighting for better public schools that serve all the students' needs.
Why do you think there's been so much money come into school board campaigns? I've heard a number of people saying, "Wow, I didn't." In a report we ran in Oklahoma City Free Press just yesterday, it showed Stan Hupfield had raised over just not quite $106,000 for the chair of the school board, which pays $25 per meeting.
Right.
So why do you think there's so much money being raised here for these? Normally, we don't think about serving on the school board as being any kind of big money or any kind of big payoff for raising a big bunch of money. What do you think's going on?
I can't speak to the motives of the candidates and why they chose to raise and spend that kind of money. I think you see folks, though, that have little connection to the schools. I mean, I don't know if they lack other activities or what the deal is, but this seems to be where they want to pour their resources and energy, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if it goes differently than it has in the past.